Welcome back, viewers, to the latest researches and news. While the rear front has stayed relatively quiet in recent days, a new clash has broken out on the other side of Tigray, entirely near the Tekeze River in the west, marking the first major engagement in this area since the Sherina battle back on August 1st. Today we're breaking down exactly what happened on August 17th and 18th. Who was involved, and why this matters for the bigger picture we've been building. Viewers, today we're discussing the new clash in western Tigray that took place on August 17th and 18th, 2026, near the Tekeze River in Megaba-Kebele. The Tigray Defense Forces 17th Infantry Army launched an attack early in the morning. This unit was operating under the command of Colonel Gebrek Jabha. The unit crossed the Tekeze River from Selimoy and advanced toward Yetmolo village. From a geographic angle, the Tekeze River is one of the major rivers in northern Ethiopia, and it runs through the western part of Tigray, the same broader area that includes Wilkate, Humera, and Selemt, the disputed territories we've mentioned before as central to the Tigray Defense Forces' stated objectives. The river itself has historically served as a natural boundary line in this region, so a unit crossing it from Selimoy toward Yetmolo village represents a deliberate move across a significant geographic marker, not just a routine patrol. Naming both the specific unit, the 17th Infantry Army, and its commanding officer, Colonel Gebrek Jabha, gives this report a level of military specificity similar to what we saw in the Debrecen battle breakdown, suggesting a coordinated, officially organized operation rather than a spontaneous local skirmish. This attack led to direct engagement with the Ethiopian National Defense Force and local Tekeze Guard forces. The fighting continued for several hours. The following day, August 18th, sporadic fighting was also reported. The mention of local Tekeze Guard forces alongside the Ethiopian National Defense Force suggests that, similar to what we saw in East Wolega with the Oromia Geda Commando, the Federal Army wasn't the only defending force in this area. There appears to be a locally organized guard force specific to the Tekeze River area assisting in the defense as well. Fighting continuing into a second day, even at a lower sporadic intensity, suggests this wasn't a single quick strike and withdraw operation, but an engagement that both sides remained actively involved in over a longer period. This clash is significant because it represents the first major engagement on the western Tigray side since the Sherina battle on August 1st. Following that battle, this area saw relative quiet, but activity has now resumed. This timing gap matters. A roughly 2.5-week period of relative calm in western Tigray, followed by a renewed organized attack involving a full infantry army unit, suggests this wasn't simply a continuation of ongoing low-level friction. It looks more like a deliberate, planned resumption of pressure on this front, timed after a period of apparent de-escalation. So far, there is no clear independent confirmation of the exact casualties from this clash. Amhara sources are describing this as a Tigray Defense Force cross-border offensive. As with most of the engagements we've covered, casualty figures are often the last detail to be confirmed and are frequently disputed or withheld altogether by both sides. The framing from Amhara sources calling this a cross-border offensive is also worth noting, since it characterizes the Tigray Defense Forces action as a deliberate incursion into contested or Amhara-administered territory rather than a defensive response, which is a framing likely to shape how this incident is discussed going forward. Overall, looking at the broader picture, there hasn't been major fighting on the Raya front since mid-August. However, on the western Tigray side, along the Tekeze River, this new clash is once again raising tension. Forces from both sides remain active, and the overall situation remains fluid. This connects directly to the strategic pattern we broke down in our earlier analysis video on the Tigray Defense Forces' overall approach, what we described then as controlled escalation and multi-front pressure. Rather than concentrating all activity on a single front like Raya Kobo, this shows the same broader strategy playing out in practice as pressure eases on one front. Activity appears to shift toward another, keeping the Ethiopian National Defense Force stretched across multiple locations rather than allowing it to concentrate its response in one area. This development shows that the Tigray People's Liberation Front and the Tigray Defense Force are still maintaining pressure across multiple fronts. If limited clashes like this one continue to increase, the risk of broader escalation could grow. As we've said in previous videos, the difference between controlled limited clashes and a full-scale war often comes down to whether these individual engagements stay isolated and contained, or whether they begin happening more frequently and simultaneously across several fronts at once. A renewed clash in western Tigray, arriving not long after developments in East Gojum, East Wulega, and the Afar Tigray border, adds one more data point to a pattern that continues to point toward rising rather than easing tensions. So to summarize, on August 17th and 18th, the Tigray People's Liberation Front's 17th Infantry Army crossed the Tekeze River near Megaba Kebeli and engaged. Ethiopian National Defense Force and local Tekeze Guard forces in multi-hour fighting, marking the first major engagement in western Tigray since the August 1st Sherarina battle. While the Raya front has stayed relatively quiet since mid-August, this renewed activity on the western side shows the broader multi-front pressure strategy we've discussed is still very much in effect. We'll keep a close eye on this front and bring you further updates as they come in. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next update.